Hello, starting with question one. If you had to choose between living a happy life in a simulation or the real life, what would you choose? I think I would choose my real life just because when you're asking me this question, I already know what my real life is like, and I already have like my family members and my pets and people and things that I care about. And I know that if I went into a simulation, then those people wouldn't be real and they wouldn't have their own emotions and feelings and they wouldn't be them anymore. And I think I would rather live a life with real people around me. And for question two, how do you know the world you're living in right now is real? I mean, I guess you don't really know, but I think I just base it off of how other people have their own mindsets, have their own values. And I know, like, when I was young, it was easy to feel like I'm the only real person in the world. But as you grow up, you just kind of realize that everyone is the main person in their own world, but that doesn't mean other people aren't real. And I just feel like that kind of makes me feel like the world I'm in is real. And for question three, if the world that you're living in now is not real, does that make any difference to your existence? I mean, I don't think it would, to be honest. Like, if it wasn't real, then that doesn't really affect anything that I'm doing now because I still have responsibilities that I have to take care of here now, and it's not like I would change anything. So I don't think that it would really affect me. If I knew that it wasn't real, though, I think that that would have me going a little bit crazy, but no, I don't think it would have much of a difference. Let us say that there are hypothetically an infinite number of parallel universes where anything can occur. Could there be a parallel universe where parallel universes don't exist? I don't think so. Because if the hypothetical is that there are an infinite number of parallel universes that do exist, then that means that there could not be a parallel universe where parallel universes don't exist, because then that would be going against the hypothetical, I feel like. And for question five, a global charity can save a child in a third world country for every $5 donation given to them. Are you morally obligated to give to them once you're aware of that? I don't think so, because I feel like it's also based off of like what you have. And I think that if you give to them, that makes you a generous person. But I don't think you're morally obligated to give to them. I feel like if you have good morals, you'll feel like you want to, even if you can't at the time. But what's the next part of that question? By being aware and not donating, are you complicit in children's death? No, I do not think so, because I don't think that we're the ones actually taking any actions to cause these deaths. I think that if we took more actions to prevent them, that would make us good people. But by not doing this, it doesn't make us bad people. It just means that we're not doing everything that we could possibly do. Okay, if you do give, how many times do you have to donate? Explain. I think it is morally right to donate, like, I feel like it's morally right to want to donate, but it's also morally right to donate if you can, and an amount that wouldn't have like a detrimental effect on your life. Like, if you have extra money, then I think it would be a good thing to give, but I don't think there's a set amount that you have to. And number six, how much is a human life worth? Should 5 people sacrifice themselves to save one? Does it make a difference if the people being saved are children? Setting aside the capitalistic issues with greed, how much money is worth spending to save a person's life in the context that at a certain dollar the money spent has a negative effect on the economy? How much is a human life worth? I guess that, well, I don't really know if that depends. Should 5 people sacrifice themselves to save one? I feel like 5 people shouldn't sacrifice themselves to save one, just because in terms of numbers, I feel like if anything, it would make more sense for one person to sacrifice themselves to save 5, because then that would cause more death just to save one person. And I don't know if it makes a difference if it was a child. I feel like with it being a child, it makes it seem like, oh, these 5 people should definitely sacrifice themselves because it's a child and that's what we feel we are obligated to do and what's morally right. But I can't say if it really makes a difference because that's still 5 human lives being lost for one child. I guess it would also depend maybe on the ages of the 5 people. Like maybe if they're all in ages like 80 years old, then I feel like they could sacrifice themselves for a child to live a long life, even though they may not have much remaining. But if it's like young adults, then I don't know if the child would make a difference. And how much money is worth spending to save a person's life? I don't know if there's a set number that you could put on this because, sorry, I'm looking at the questions. Before it ruins the government, basically. I don't think that you should spend enough money to save a person's life if that means that we're putting the economy at risk, because then that puts so many other people's lives and at risk, I would say, but it's also making them live their lives in a lot more probably pain, and they'll go through a lot of suffering if the economy is down and if the government's down, because that really affects our everyday lives. So we definitely shouldn't spend enough money that would cause those impacts. But I think if money can be spent to help save someone's life, then it should be, but not enough to the point where it'll start having an effect on our society as a whole. Okay. And I hope that makes sense. Number 7, a terrible pandemic is raging across the globe. A vaccine has finally been developed. However, this vaccine is slow, and it will be some time before there are enough vaccines for everyone. You're in charge of distributing the vaccines for your country. What is the most ethical approach? Ethical approach for distributing the vaccine? I would say maybe it would make sense to give it to children, I think, or maybe adults. I feel like also giving it to like people with important roles in society, not so much like government and everything, but I feel like doctors and like surgeons, police, firefighters, I feel like they should definitely get vaccines because we need them to keep our society safe and keep the people safe, keep us going. Because if we lose all of them to the pandemic, then society is not really going to be able to operate. But I do also feel like giving it to children is a good idea because I just feel like they have the most life left in them. But where's the next part of this question? What factors do you consider and which do you not? I feel like I wouldn't consider factors being like class. So like I wouldn't give the vaccine to a higher class just because they're viewed as more important to society because they're richer. I wouldn't classify a factor of ethnicity or race because I don't think that matters at all in determining who should get the life-saving vaccine first. And to make it fair and equitable, I think that in order to make it fair, I would make sure that it's not distributed in a way that favors one type of ethnicity, one type of social class, one type of race, one type of gender. I think that it should be whatever category it's dispersed to first. I don't think that it should consider any of those factors at all. Okay, and number 8, imagine that through some hypothetical means okay, you're the person who's solely responsible for such. How do you set the value of $1 and what is the rate of pay? Like minimum wage? This question. So I'm the one who's responsible for setting the value of the US dollar. I don't know what I would make it. I would, of course, try to make our economy a lot better than it is now, so that people's rate of pay, or I guess the minimum wage, will be higher, so that they can afford their daily living and stuff like that, because I know that a lot of people are really struggling right now with the economy. I don't know too much about setting the value of the dollar. I think probably make it worth more, right? I don't know. But I just know that I'd want to do something in a way that would make people be able to afford living in our society a lot easier, and so that they could be paid more money and be able to support themselves, but also not like barely support themselves. I would want them to be able to have enough to also live their lives happy and be able to take care of their families and be able to go out and do things for themselves. I hope that's a good enough answer. And then the last question: how many people have to experience something before their experience becomes a concern? I do think it has to be like enough people so that it becomes like a pattern in this concern. Because if it's just like one person out of 100,000 or something, then I don't know if that would be enough to make it seem like this is a huge issue, because that could just be like a one-time thing. But if it's like 50% of the population, then that is becoming like a huge problem. Or even like 40% or 30%, because that's still a lot of people. Like 30 people out of 100 having the same problem shows that there's a pattern maybe that should be addressed. But I'd say if it's under like 10%, then I don't know if that would be enough. And how many people or percentage of a certain group must commit an action before it can be attributed to the group as a whole? So basically like stereotypes. I don't know, because I don't know if we should hold stereotypes really anymore as much, because I know that that's been a thing for a really long time, and I think that that's something that's very often used to discriminate against people. So I feel like maybe we should just judge people based off of who they are and not just their race or gender and ethnicity. But yep, those are my answers for this assignment. Sorry if it was kind of confusing. I was kind of confused. Thank you.